Point After Podcast with your host, Julien Barnett.
What's up, fantasy world? Welcome into the Point After Podcast. I'm your host, Julien Barnett, brought to you as always on the True North Podcast Network and from our friends over at Monkey Knife Fight. This week, I'm joined by fellow co-host and good friend, Coach Craig. You can find him on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. Coach, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing all right so far, minus tilting over some NBA stuff, but we'll be talking about some football, so I'll get my mind off that for a little bit.
Well, and I mean, really, what else is new for you? When are you not tilting about NBA DFS?
It's a good question lately.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. See, I'm the same way, but with NFL, and I don't have all of the wisdomous knowledge that you do about the NBA coiled up in this brain of mine, so I don't need to worry about that. But I do not envy you because I know you've been crushing it lately with your NBA DFS. So if that does interest anybody, make sure you go and check out Coach Craig's YouTube page where he does a boatload of videos. Some of those including NBA DFS content where you can go and win some money alongside him. So you got anything to add to that, Coach?
Oh, not really right now. I mean, winding down with football season, so mainly NBA DFS up at this point in time. But
yes, well, and on that note, football season is winding down. We're heading into championship weekend of most people's fantasy playoffs. You know, some people will be playing in week 18. We don't want to talk about them, but we're going to focus on week 17 here. Coach, you got some games in week 18 or what?
Yeah, I got a couple left. Let's see. There's probably about 3 leagues left still out of like 9 or so. Unfortunately, I did not get to the finals of Scott Fishbowl. I lost in the I did not advance in the semifinals. I can't really say lost.
Yeah, you just don't have quite high enough score.
Nope.
If you do as well, because I also got eliminated from Scott Fishbowl in I think it was the second round of the playoffs or semifinals, whatever that is, third round, which was a bummer. But kudos to us for making it that far, and hopefully we can try again next year, raise some money for a good cause, and fingers crossed we get back into that dance. Ooh. But let's just take a quick couple minutes at the beginning of the show here to recap some of our leagues. I personally, I was pretty defeated last week, Coach. I had 6 championship teams or 6 teams in the semifinals, and 5 of those 6 teams got eliminated thanks to a great Monday night game by Jalen Waddle. I did advance to the finals in one league that has no business being in the finals, but it's there. And that just speaks to the wildness that is fantasy football. How did you do? How is your season-long teams looking?
So in terms of season long, my home league, I'm in the championship once again, which is pretty much an every year occurrence at this point in time. Then my big money, or I can't even say big money, but the bigger money league, at least, which is a new league this year. I'm in the finals as well, at least for season long. Dynasty ones, I had a couple that did end up losing that were like the number 1 seeds as well. One was unfortunately against Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon. That just did not end up too well.
I lost to that stack as well with T. Higgins on my team. So you can imagine the defeat that I felt. I also played against Josh Allen in that league. Dalton Schultz, Cooper Kupp. I'm pretty sure Deebo Samuel was on that roster as well. So
everyone. It
was rough, and there was some major fantasy performances last week that certainly put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, for some people. So I've now moved on. I'm looking at my one team that is in the fantasy playoffs. I get DeAndre Swift back this week, which again I can't believe that I made it this far without him. He's like the best player on my team, but I've just been like scrubbing by with Jeff Wilson and J-Rob. And then J-Rob goes down with the Achilles injury last week. And then now I'm getting DeAndre Swift back. So I'm like, maybe all the stars will align and this team can pull something out of its hat. It's been doing it all year. So we'll see. But yeah, without further ado, Coach, we have a pretty jam-packed night tonight. We got this show on right now. We're going to be this first hour, and we got a double header with the SODFS podcast coming on after us. They're going to take you through all of the weekend slate tomorrow, and as well as and then we'll take over the Monday nighter. And we're going to talk the Sunday nighter as well on this show. But before we do all that, we're going to get into some injuries. They won't have time to get to it on their show. And we're here on Saturday night. We love to recap all these injuries with all the information that we have here. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you and take it away.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with the Patriots. We got Nelson Aguilar out with a concussion once again. Jacoby Myers has a thigh injury. He's been limited in practice all week. He is questionable to play. I do assume that he does play. Just given the way the Patriots are, usually when you're limited in practice all week, you end up questionable, and then you usually end up playing when you're on the Patriots in general. So don't really think we need to say too much there. It's pretty much the same situation that we were looking at last week for the Patriots overall. Damien Harris was a little, he was listed as limited once again all week, but he should be fine. So I don't really have any concern about him. On the opposite side of that game, we got James O'Shaughnessy. He's out with the hip injury. And actually, a couple of their other tight ends are on the COVID list. We'll see if they get back before tomorrow's game as well. There is a ton of Jaguars on the COVID list anyways. You're probably not playing anybody from Jacksonville anyways in fantasy football championship, or at least I hope you're not.
If you've made it to the championship by playing Jags pass catchers, or the only caveat I'll have is J-Rob, but with him down with the Achilles injury, there's no one I'm interested in. There's no one that I want to plug into a role. But it's funny enough, this one championship team, I'm actually forced into starting Trevor Lawrence because Justin Fields is not playing this week. So again, last week I only had one quarterback. I started Justin Jackson in my Superflex spot, and it worked out. Okay. So that's the glory of fantasy football sometimes, Coach. But I'm not in on really any of these Jags unless it's real dire situations.
What was the stat I heard too? Trevor Lawrence hasn't thrown like a touchdown in like 4 games.
Yeah, I think I think he's on pace. He was on pace at one point this year to throw 2 touchdowns on the entire season. That was over like an 8-game stretch. It's been rough. It's been rough for the kid, man.
Yeah, and not the prettiest. It's not the best situation, but I mean, some of it still does end up falling back on him. Hopefully, everything kind of gets straightened out by the end of the year.
Honestly, at this point, man, like I'll just say, like when you look at what some of the other rookie quarterbacks have been able to do with the cast that they have, there's no excuse for Trevor Lawrence to at least show us something. I'm really disappointed that we haven't seen that. At least like give us some kind of a flashy play, give us something to be excited about. Where we've seen that with some of these other youngsters, where they've done some things that at least show us some potential. Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to add that. Yep. And we got Dynasty Pylon here. T-Law as a starter. How deep is this league? Well, it is a super flex league, 14 team, but I have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, and COVID and injuries. It's tough, man. It's tough. So. And Dan, we got Dan popping up in the comments. Check him out after the show, as I mentioned earlier. But Dan, what's up? Thanks so much for joining us. All right, Coach, back to you with the injuries.
Yeah, so we got Jamison Crowder. He's got a calf injury. He's doubtful once again. He didn't play last week, so we're pretty much looking at that same type of situation once again. Probably don't want to play any of these Jets wide receivers. Sorry, well, Braxton Berrios did have a nice kick return touchdown on some terrible punt or kickoff coverage last week. It was pretty nice to see. Helped me out in DFS, but in terms of regular redraft, not playing them at this point in time. Then we move over to Tampa Bay, who is without their 2 primary edge rushers, and Shaq Barrett with the knee injury and Jason Pierre-Paul with the shoulder injury. So maybe gets a little bit more time for Zach Wilson. They did have Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting on the COVID list, but they were just activated today. So we'll see if they're full go or not come tomorrow. And then we move down to the Bills a little bit here with Emmanuel Sanders. He's got that knee injury. Limited in practice the first day of this week. Did not practice the 2 days after that. He's questionable to play. We'll see if he's out there or not. Obviously, they do get Gabe Davis and Cole Beasley both back this week as well. I don't know. Like
no
it's
more
a great
Isaiah
matchup against Atlanta.
9 receptions, 110 yards and touchdown. No more Isaiah McKenzie.
Oh, dude, I made so much money off him last week too.
Well, he was practically free. What's funny is that in my home league, I had a bunch of injuries. I actually ended up starting Braxton Berrios last week off the waiver wire. But some of the other names that I picked up, I moved 4 guys to the IR and COVID list Sunday morning when waivers were open. And I picked up, just listen to this name of guys: Isaiah McKenzie, blow up week. Cameron Brate scored a touchdown. My opponent needed to pick up a tight end, so I just picked up Cameron Brate to play defense a little bit. But non-tight end premium league, just a standard league. And then, I'm blanking on the last one here. It was another guy who had a big week. But anyways, I digress. Back to you with the injuries, Coach. It was tough because I didn't play any of them except for Braxton Berrios. The other guy sat on my bench. I watched Isaiah McKenzie blow up with Josh Allen as my quarterback on my bench. It was rather devastating, I must admit.
Yep. Then we have the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo's got that thumb injury. He did not practice all week. He's doubtful to play. Probably looking at Trey Lance this week. I mean, I've heard a lot of things about Trey Lance this week. I mean, I even saw somebody be like, "Oh, his floor is a top 10 finish." I'm like, I don't think you understand what floor means. But I'm like, no, he had 14 points earlier this year. That's at least his floor at the very least. But he's a guy that's going to run a bunch. He's a rookie quarterback in his second career start. Only had 14 career starts at the FCS level in college. Yes, the Texans defense isn't that great. They give up a lot of yards, but they do cause turnovers. They do get pressure as well too. So it's not the best matchup in the world for a young quarterback as well. With that being said, he's probably still going to end up like a top 15 quarterback if he's the one starting for me, but there's still better options out there. So don't go crazy this week and play him over, somebody that's been there throughout the season for you is what I would say at the very least. Yeah,
I agree. And I think in most championship matchups this week, no one's relying on Trey Lance, right? So you'd really have to be, well, I mean, I guess there's not a whole lot of COVID at the quarterback position and not a crazy amount of injuries, although I am starting Trevor Lawrence. So, but more further to the point is, if you're looking at Trey Lance or someone like Ryan Tannehill, right? Those are the questions that fantasy managers are going to have to answer. Which one of those guys are you interested in, Coach?
I guess I'll play Trey Lance. I don't want Ryan Tannehill.
I'm in the same boat. It's more a testament to Ryan Tannehill than it is really wanting Trey Lance in my lineup. I do have a couple DFS lines that I've built with him, just 1 or 2, just in case he does have a blow up game. But I'm not holding my breath that he's gonna give us a QB1 overall week type of thing.
Cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way. Perfect. Yeah, I don't want even as a Texans fan, I don't want the kid come out and just fail, but you gotta, it's still a guy in his second career start, so you gotta take it with a grain of salt.
For sure.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell, he's been limited in practice all week. He is questionable to play. Kyle Shanahan seems optimistic that he's going to play. He's been out for a while now. We've seen him get most of the workload this season when he's been healthy, but I think at this point in time, it's probably going to be a split with him and Jeff Wilson, just being that he's been out for quite some time at this point in time. If he's back, I'm not really interested in starting either one. If he's not playing, then, Jeff Wilson, you could look at probably like a running back 2 once again this week.
Agreed.
Yeah. So the Browns, we have Kareem Hunt with his ankle injury. Did not practice the first day this week. Limited practice 2 days after that. Questionable to play. I probably assume that he doesn't end up playing once again today. Or not today, Monday. So I don't know if you feel any differently about that situation. I think he'll suit up.
I do. I think he'll suit up, but I just don't think he'll get in the game. He has hardly been used in the past 2 games that he was playing. I know he got injured last week, but even the game before that, he had 7 carries. It was pretty rough outing for if you're going to try and start Kareem Hunt.
Well, the worst part for him too is he was injured. He came back that first game. He was kind of limited. Then the second game, he got hurt right away too. I think he was the second play or the third play of the game that he played at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, and then they have Troy Hill.
I'm probably not trusting Kareem Hunt. That's not a guy that I'm looking to put in any of my lineups this week.
Nah. Troy Hill and John Johnson are both out in the secondary for the Browns once again. So maybe that helps the Steelers out just a little bit. But, mainly in the slides, Ray McLeod. So unless you're playing DFS, probably not going to be playing Ray McLeod anyways. Then let's see. if Pat Freiermuth does return from his concussion this week, he's a borderline top 10 tight end once again. If he gets the touchdown, he's going to be pretty nice for you. If he doesn't get the touchdown, then he's probably not going to be too nice to you. That's pretty much how it is with him and a lot of tight ends too. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he has a better chance than most tight ends do to give you that touchdown. So as a dart throw.
And the Browns have given up 8 so far this season. So it's a decent chance, but Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah did mess up a couple of those weeks as well. Then let's see, we got the Ravens, who got a couple different ones here. We got Anthony Everett, their top remaining corner. He's out with the rib or chest injury. Lamar Jackson dealing with the ankle. Tried to practice the first day this week, was kind of limping around. Then he didn't practice 2 days after that. He's still technically listed as questionable. It's safe to assume that Tyler Huntley is going to end up starting this game once again. Are you interested in Tyler Huntley this week against the Rams?
In a DFS perspective, for sure. I've thrown him into a couple lineups. I mean, that 42-point outing where, he had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. That's not going to happen every week, but he's certainly proved that he can be a competent fantasy quarterback. And he does have a bit of a rushing floor. He's kind of like Taylor Heineke that way, where he's just got like a sneaky floor where he can get up there. It's not, I don't think it'll be every game, but if the defense gives it to him, that's what he's going to take. And he's been a competent enough passer. He's made Mark Andrews into, a surefire top 3 tight end on any given week that they've been together. So yeah, I am in on him. What about you?
Yeah. Let's go back to the Ryan Tannehill question. Would you start him over Ryan Tannehill this week?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd start him over Trey Lance too, I think.
Yeah, I can get behind that. And Mark Andrews is just proving that he's quarterback proof. But hey, Josh Johnson came out last week and he balled out too. So much respect for my boy Josh Johnson. Sad to say that this guy's never gotten a real chance in the NFL, even though he's been on like 15 different teams.
Yeah, you feel for the dude, man. He's like the Ryan Fitzpatrick that never was.
He's worse than that. He's double that, essentially. Especially in teams wise.
He just never got the end of the year career arc that we were all hoping. He could still get it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I think he could still.
He's a guy that he was about 10 years too early for his time, kind of that mobile quarterback with the arm moving around and all that stuff too. So
it fits the Ravens.
Couldn't fit for Baltimore though.
No kidding. All right.
Marquis Brown has been dealing with an illness, limited practice. He's questionable to play. I do assume that he does end up playing in this game. He may be a little bit more limited than normal. Non-COVID illness. Doesn't sound like it's like anything too serious, but just something to monitor regardless. So if you have a similar type of option, I'd probably just play them over Marquis Brown this week. Plus going against the Rams, potentially Tyler Huntley at quarterback. If you got a similar option, a slightly lesser option that maybe is a little bit safer, go with that, I would say myself.
Yeah, I agree. And Hollywood's been a hard guy to plug into your lineup over the last 3 weeks. It's been really rough. Even with Lamar, he isn't getting the volume that he was at the beginning of the season. His touchdown numbers are way down. And, he's actually been hurting your fantasy team. I would be impressed if you were able to be in the finals after starting Marquis Brown for the last 3 or 4 weeks, unless you had a really, really strong start to the season and were able to, just get that bye or scrape into the playoffs and have the rest of your team be solid enough. So I'm pretty much out on Marquis Brown this week, to be honest. Not excited about him whatsoever.
Yeah. I think the last couple of weeks, he's just been more of that boom bust wide receiver 3 once again, instead of that more consistent presence of like a top 20 wide receiver like we saw earlier in the year at the very least. Let's put it that way.
For sure, man.
Then we have Cam Akers. He's obviously coming back from the Achilles injury, supposedly full practice this week. He's questionable to play. He's still unlikely to play, according to Sean McVay. They do not anticipate him back till week 18 or the playoffs. So he might suit up in this game. If you have him, especially in redraft, I don't know why you picked him up anyways, but do not play him because he's like literally just an emergency plan, like breaking case. Like Sony Michel gets hurt. Like they still have Sony Michel, they have Jake Funk, and they have Buddy Howell too. All 3 of those guys would probably have to get hurt before they throw Cam Akers in this game.
Yeah, I agree. But what a phenomenal story this guy is. Just this whole season, when I read the headline that he was activated off of the IR, I couldn't believe it. My jaw dropped, and I hope that they don't rush him back and give him a chance to re-injure, because I really want to see him, have a really strong career after this. And I mean, coming back this quick is phenomenal, but it does make you worry. I mean, it makes me worry. Like, what's going to happen if he gets out there and his body just isn't ready for NFL contact yet.
Well, it's just like, we've seen what this injury can do to other players. We've seen other guys take extra time to make sure this injury is fully healed and they're back to what they need to be, a la Kelvin Durant. Like, Kevin Durant had a personal trainer, physical therapist in his house, 15 hours a day, every single day for months and months and months, working with him.
Yeah. And Kevin, as fantastic of an athlete as he is, basketball and football are very different sports. And I mean, I know, like, the Achilles is not necessarily, that's generally not even a contact injury, but the amount of pressure that your body takes and the amount of, strain you put on it in any given day, especially in a game situation, it's really worrisome.
Yeah. But the chance of re-injury, I think it's like 60 to 65%, like, now at this point in time. Like, if he plays at all before the Super Bowl, let's just put it that way. And it's a really risky proposition. It's not something I probably recommend. I know a lot of people liked him before, but, like, to me, he was always just kind of like he was a guy. Like, he's slightly better than, like, just a guy, but, like, he wasn't a guy that made a bunch of plays on his own. And now he's kind of lost that explosiveness that was kind of his calling card coming out of Florida State, at least at the very least. So there is a lot of cause for concern there. Hopefully, this all ends up well. Hopefully he doesn't really have to play too much at any point this year, so that this doesn't become a major injury once again.
Well, and that's just it, right? They're extremely comfortable with Sony Michel back there. When Darrell Henderson's back, he might get mixed into it a little bit, get into the run, and they have competent backs there already. So this could potentially be, moving forward, a murky dynasty situation where we thought, Cam Akers is going to come back and take over this role. I could actually see it getting a little murkier, but we'll just have to wait and see how that happens. Yeah,
we could talk about that a little bit more some other time, but let's see. The Bengals get Logan Wilson, their middle linebacker, back. He's been out like 3 or 4 weeks, so that's a big up boost for their defense overall. Then we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire out once again, so Darrell Williams back in play once again. They did activate Jerick McKinnon off IR. Shout out to Trav, his little boy over there, Jerick McKinnon. Never been on the McKinnon bandwagon myself, but Darrell Williams, is a fine play once again this week. McKinnon, I wouldn't touch unless you're unless you want to take that dart throw in DFS or something like that. But first week back, anything like that, I don't really see anything there personally myself. No. Let's see. We have a bunch of Denver Bronco news. So we got Teddy Bridgewater. He's out with a concussion still. So Drew Lock starts once again. I'll say this too. Like, there's been a lot of Drew Lock slander out there too. And they're like, oh, the offense is worse because Drew Lock's there. No, Teddy hasn't been good either. So, like, the offense isn't any worse. They couldn't run the ball at all last week. So, it's just not good either way. Like, until they get a quarterback, that offense isn't going to move.
Yeah, it's been rough, man. It's been rough if you're a Broncos fan. I'm not gonna lie, and honestly, I don't think Drew Lock makes you any worse, and I don't think he makes you any better. I think he's better for Noah Fant.
I think he raises the ceiling of your offense, like what your offense could do. Doesn't mean it's always going to be better. Like, he makes that's true. He makes the game.
He's got an arm. He can slug that ball. He can hit the deep shot. The problem is he's just so turnover prone. Like, he turns the ball over like crazy.
So the thing with him and a lot of a lot of young quarterbacks, they have this big arm and they think they can make every throw. We saw this in the past with guys like Brett Favre, but the problem is nowadays they don't give people the chance to learn what you can and cannot do. You get 13 starts and they'll be like, you're out. Like, that's kind of the problem with quarterbacks now. Like, you just throw guys in the fire when they're not ready, then you expect them to just be great right away. It's not like most guys are going to fail in that situation.
True.
Got a little too far off base there, but We got Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. They're both questionable this week. So we got Melvin Gordon with is listed as a thumb and a hip. I think it's more of the thumb this week. And then Javonte Williams with the knee injury. So if they both play, you're just kind of looking at what you've been looking at all season. If one of them ends up missing, the other one looks a whole lot better this week. Pretty much the easiest way to say it.
More Broncos.
Then they have a bunch of guys on the COVID list too. So these are guys, I'm not sure if they're all still on there. This is the list from last night. So we got Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, so both wide receivers there besides Cortland Sutton, Bradley Chubb, Bryce Callahan, and the right tackle Bobby Massey. So if Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick are both out, I would not be surprised if Noah Fant has a good week this week. So if you really need a tight end this week and Noah Fant's available for some reason, go out and grab him or if you already have him, you can probably play him this week. So it should be a pretty good there. And I think they played the Chargers too, who are not very good against tight ends.
Yeah.
So, could be a good.
They've been a great matchup actually for tight ends this year. So could be nice. I just want to answer this question. We got Matt in the comments. But what guys have failed who may have later succeeded? Would this be a Josh Johnson question?
I think that's more related to Drew Lock.
I know. I'm asking you, what quarterbacks who failed in where they got thrown into the fire would have been great later in their career? I guess Ryan Tannehill.
So what guys that have failed may succeed later? So there's you could always make an argument that Josh Rosen, if he was not behind two of the worst offensive lines that we've seen in the last 20 years, he might have been okay. If he was on a real team, but if you understand that Arizona, he was never supposed to play in Arizona the first year. That's why they hit Sam Bradford. Then Sam Bradford got hurt. Then these other guys sucked. And then they put Rosen in behind one of the worst offensive lines in the last 20, 25 years. And the only weapon they had on offense was aging Larry Fitzgerald. So, and then he went to Miami and they had no offensive line because they traded away Laremy Tunsil and they put a turnstile and Julian Davenport at left tackle, which is a terrible idea, by the way. And he had, what was he throwing to? Isaiah Ford and Preston Williams and nobody, Devontae Parker before he was anything, Mike Gesicki, second year Mike Gesicki, he had they had nobody, they had no running game. That year, Ryan Fitzpatrick led that team in rushing.
I know, with 600 yards.
It wasn't
650 yards.
I don't even think it was that much. It was 400.
Oh man, yeah, it was brutal. That's fair. No, that's a fair point. But I was never on the Josh Rosen train, and you will never convert me. So,
Well, you're on the Sam Darnold train, so I'll keep on working on converting you on that.
I'm slowly falling off, Coach.
Off the track.
It's been rough. It's been rough.
We've seen quarterbacks that have failed at their first stop before and then go somewhere else and turn out all right though too. One of the most notable ones in NFL history is Rich Gannon. He was terrible with the Chiefs. He goes to the Raiders and he was a very good quarterback. I think he even won a Super Bowl with them.
There you go. Even Kirk Cousins fits that bill. It was never. It hasn't been.
He's good with the Redskins when they were the Redskins at that time.
Mm-hmm. He was. He just didn't have a whole lot of same situation. He didn't have any weapons, and he's always been a competent quarterback. He just now that he actually has some reliable weapons around him, he can actually do the things that he wants. Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on, buddy. We got James Conner, right?
James Conner is questionable, but he's hopeful to play with his heel injury. He only practiced on Friday, so we'll see what happens with that. They need him in this game. If he doesn't play in this game, this is going to be a blowout. We've seen what the offense looks like without James Conner on the field. It's not good, especially when DeAndre Hopkins is not playing either. They do get their center, Rodney Hudson, back this week. He's expected to return, and that's a big, big deal because Max Garcia was terrible last week. He botched 4 snaps. And Rodney Hudson, one of the better centers in the game overall, so definitely going to be a big one there. Their left tackle, DJ Humphries, is on the COVID list. We'll see if he's back in time for the game or not. On the opposite side of the ball, for the Cowboys, they get a big one back. It's Tyrone Smith, the left tackle. So obviously, that's a big one. He's been dealing with some injuries the last couple of years. Unfortunately, he missed one game earlier this year. Then he came back, and then this dude named Tony Pollard ran over his freaking leg.
Freaking Tony.
Yeah.
That's why you can't trust guys named Tony. Sorry if you're listening and your name's Tony.
I don't like Tony Pollard, but But even if you go back and watch the highlight, it's just terrible because he just run it there's a hole here and then he just runs this way and takes out his leg. But Matt's also again, it was 20 years ago. I know. I said the most. I said the most notable in NFL history. But I mean, we've seen guys fail one place and go somewhere else and do all right too. I can't even think of any other ones off the top of my head. So let's see where we're at. So we were down to DeAndre Swift's supposed to play this week. How confident are you in DeAndre Swift? Do you think he's going to be limited? I'm in the situation where you are, where one of my other running backs got hurt. I'm sorry, Antonio Gibson. He went on the COVID list, which we'll talk about later. And I get Swift back this week. But so I think they're going to limit him. Even though I
honestly don't. I mean, I think they've been taking their sweet time to bring him back to make sure he's fully healthy. And this team, they just go out and they just want to compete. They're going to put their best players on the field and get the ball in their playmakers' hands. And if he's healthy enough to be out there on the field, they're going to feed him the rock because he is the best player they have. And I think he's going to see some pretty hefty volume in this game. And with David Blau, a quarterback, could see a heavy amount of checkdowns as well. So I'm in on DeAndre Swift here.
Is it David Blau?
I think it is Blau, yeah.
What happened to Tim Boyle?
Is it Boyle? Oh, it might be Boyle.
Yeah,
I get those two mixed up. These are just interchangeable names, Tim Boyle,
I think Blau's the better quarterback, but that's a whole nother story. But Jared Goff, he is doubtful for this game with a knee injury. Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds are both on the COVID list. So yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift. I believe Brock Wright, the tight end's on the COVID list too as well. They brought up some practice squad tight ends. So yeah, it's not going to be pretty. I mean, Tim Boyle looks bad enough as it is with their normal weapons. Now they have not their normal weapons. So who they play this week? Seattle Seahawks defense. Not the best defense, but I still consider streaming them this week against that cast of crew.
Yeah. It's funny when you I often remind myself of this because sometimes I try and pick apart these matchups and, this is a terrible defense against the pass, they have to be good. But then you have to remember that these are still real people. They still choke under pressure and vice versa. They still, have electric games that you just don't expect sometimes, in bad matchups. So, just keep that in mind whenever setting these lineups. But I'm in on Swift. Everybody else, I mean, Amon-Ra is going to see some heavy volume again.
Oh, you got to play Amon-Ra.
So I'd be comfortable throwing him in deeper leagues where you got 2 or 3 flexes. Is likely a guy that you could throw in there. But yeah, are you comfortable putting him in a standard 1 flex type of league?
I mean, if I'm in a 3 wide receivers, if I'm in a 3 wide receiver league with a flex, I'm comfortable putting Amon-Ra in there. He's been great. He's a top 20 wide receiver last couple of weeks.
For sure. Yeah, he's just been a PPR machine, just volume galore. And he's making the most of it. We talked about this kid when we were doing our pre-draft shows and stuff. You and I, we've had many conversations on this show about him, and I'm a big fan of him and his work ethic that he brings into the field. And I think that he is everything that this Detroit Lions team wants. In a wide receiver and an elite playmaker for them. So they're going to keep feeding him the rock.
And then I don't even have this one on the notes, but DJ Reed, the top corner for the Seahawks, did go on the COVID list today. But, he's that outside corner, and Amon-Ra primary plays in the slot, so that really shouldn't affect things too much overall there. Either way, Darren Waller is on the COVID list. Darren Waller has been hurt for a while anyway, so fire up Foster Moreau again if you really, really, really need to, but probably a DFS player more than anything. Adam Thielen went on IR. Kirk Cousins is on the COVID list. So those two are not playing. The Vikings offense, not quite as good. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, though. Cameron Dantzler, the second-year corner out of Mississippi State. He's dealing with a calf injury. He's doubtful to play. So it looks like Chris Boyd will be on the outside. If Chris Boyd lines up against Javonte Adams, it's game over. That's all I got to say about that. That's most corners, though, but it's not even going to be funny. It's just you're going to watch it and you'd be like, wow, that just happened.
Well, when you're Davante Adams.
Yeah. No disrespect to Chris Boyd and his family, but 7th round rookie or not even rookie. He's been around for a little while. Mainly a special teamer. Let's just put that. We'll go down to Justin Fields. He is dealing with that ankle injury. Limited practice all week. He's listed as questionable, but it has been reported that Andy Dalton's returning this week and he's likely to start in this game. So looking at some Andy Dalton. You kind of look like
Andy Dalton starting, and I heard a report that said Matt Nagy said that Nick Foles will be backing him up, and Justin Fields likely won't even be suiting up. So we'll see what happens, but regardless, I don't think he's going to be playing in this game.
Yeah.
Sad face.
Can you dress up as Andy Dalton next year for Halloween? You got the red hair and the beard already.
Well, you see, the top of my hair is actually kind of brown, but the beard comes in full red rifle, So I could be Andy Dalton from the nose down, and then I don't know. I'll figure out someone who's balding for the top half, and maybe I could be you, Coach.
Yep. Yeah. I don't even remember what I was gonna say, but Andy Dalton looks way cooler with a beard than he ever did without one. So that's all
for sure. He had to grow one too. Once he got into Chicago, he was like, "Man, it's cold here." Not that Ohio is really a whole lot warmer,
but I mean, even with Dallas, he had a house in Texas either way. Because he went to TCU and all that stuff. We're talking about too much about Andy Dalton at this point in time. Let's get down to Kadarius Toney, who's out with a shoulder injury. And then because Kadarius Toney is out, all the Giants wide receivers are pretty much out as well. Colin Johnson, John Ross. Normally we wouldn't talk about these guys, but they're both out as well. Darius Slayton's on the COVID list. So you have Kenny Galladay and a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah, it's ugly, man. And
Galladay hasn't done anything.
And who's the quarterback? Is Mike Glennon this week?
I think they said they're starting from again, but they're planning on using both guys.
Yeah. So
start the Bears. Start the Bears defense. Saquon was banged up this week. He practiced. I did not expect him to play, but he's going to play supposedly. Like, there's no reason to play him. You already shut Daniel Jones down. This is actually a really fun game, though, just because the Giants own the Bears pick. So it's like either way, no matter what happens, one pick gets worse and one pick gets better. So if you're a Giants fan, you should be rooting for a tie.
That is funny. See, you learn something every time you come on the show. Every time you watch the show, you learn something. Let me tell you.
Then we get down to the Eagles. Miles Sanders is out once, or I can't even say once again, but he's out again, or he's out with the fractured hand. Jordan Howard was dealing with a stinger. He's been kind of limited in practice all week. He's questionable to play. If it's not him, it sounds like it's going to be Boston Scott. For those of you Kenny Gainwell lovers, he's just died. Like, he's seen like...
You can't fumble this many times in your rookie year and continue to get on the field.
Nope. He's had like 8 snaps the past 2 games, and that's with some injuries. So it's not too pretty for him. We get down to the Washington football team on the other side. William Jackson, their top corner, is out with the calf injury. Antonio Gibson's out on the COVID list.
It's a good thing none of those fantasy dynasty teams of mine made it, because I have Antonio Gibson on almost all of them.
I mean, you can look at playing Jared Patterson. I love Jared Patterson, but it's probably not somebody I feel comfortable with. If I'm a super deep league and I'm desperate, I guess I'll roll him out there, but that's about the only situation I'd do it.
The only perk that Jared Patterson has is he's available. Like, that's the only like saving grace, is that you can pick him up. Even still, I'm not sure what the numbers are on it, but I would assume that most people haven't gone and picked him up. And I mean, the dude's had some crazy highlights in his career. He didn't catch a single pass in college the entire time.
He didn't. He didn't have a single target his senior year of college.
His senior year, but he is like a little ping pong ball who just doesn't seem to go down, and he's very fast. So yeah, you never know. I mean, he could pop something off. I like him as a DFS dart throw. I'm not really looking for him in any of my season long or dynasty leagues this late into the season.
So we got Stephon Gilmore out with the groin injury. We got Tommy Tremble on the COVID list. So I don't know. Like, I don't really care too much about them. And then Traquan Smith's out with a chest injury. So Saints wide receiver is worse than they already were.
With an even worse quarterback.
Well, Taysom's back this week, I do believe.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. He's not worse than Ian Book.
No, that's true. He can't be worse than
Ian Book. Much as I give Taysom crap, he's not worse than Ian Book, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, Coach, we got to let the kid develop. We got to give him some time.
And maybe just then he can beat Chase Daniel with some legs. That's how I compare him.
Ooh, that's not great.
Not good, Bob.
That's not great, Bob. So usually this would be the part of the show where we look back at last week's props and see how we did, but we did not do any props last week.
Or the week
our
before.
last show was actually 3 weeks ago. We missed the last 2 weeks. We had Christmas the week before. I was out of town, so I had to take the weekend off, and I'm happy to be back, but unfortunately we don't have anything back to look at. We did do pretty good on those previous props that we had. I think we hit both of our touchdown dances in those 2 previous weeks. It was pretty exciting. So you can go back and watch the last episode if you want to hear about how awesome we are. But otherwise, let's get into our Monkey Knife Fight touchdown dance. I'm just going to pull up a word from Monkey Knife Fight, and then I'll get this touchdown dance pulled up.
If you want the best DFS player prop games in the industry, jump onto Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is sweeping the nation right now, and we at True North are proud to be doing it along with them. They've got games for all sports and skill levels that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat, with endless opportunity to watch your winnings pile up. With our promo code TNFF, Monkey Knife Fight will match your first deposit up to $50. So sign up now with our promo code and you can get up to $50 of free money to start making some bank. Again, that's monkeyknifefight.com, and the promo code is TNFF at your first deposit to start playing today.
All right. So, excuse me. Woo, should have done that while we were on break. But I digress. Here we are. All right. So with our touchdown dance, we are looking at the Browns and the. Oops, sorry, I wrote down the wrong teams here. But anyways, it's the Browns and the Steelers game. We got a 41 point over under in this game. Not a lot of points projected to be scored, and I honestly might take the under on that. I just do not have really any confidence in this Steelers offense, and this Browns offense is also it's not ugly. Like I think there will be points scored. I'm just not sure where to go. So I'm excited to kind of break this down with you, Coach, because I think there's a lot of questions regarding this game. Usually we would do the Sunday nighter and the Monday nighter, but we just discussed this before the show, but the Sunday night game, the Vikings and the Packers game, has been removed from the slate here. So I think it's due to Kirk Cousins being ruled out and Adam Thielen being ruled out, and they just took that game off their slate. But yeah, we'll just take on this one for now, Coach. We got about 15, 20 minutes left. I know we got to get out of here kind of on time tonight because we got the SNDFS boys behind us. So I don't want to go over into their time. So I think we'll just do this touchdown dance, and then we'll do the showdown slate after. So who stands out to you here? I mean, there's a few names kind of flying around for me, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Nick Chubb, or, kind of some mainstream guys who would typically get thrown into a dance like this. Are you looking at any of these later options, or where are you at?
Give me the Nicholas Chubb.
Yes. It's the easiest pick on this whole slate, right? I mean, sorry, go on.
The Steelers defense cannot stop the run this year at all. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't think Kareem Hunt's playing. I know you think he's going to suit up, but I really don't think he's going to play.
I mean, even if he does, I just don't think he's doing much. That's the whole point. He's there as a security blanket, but more to further your point, he scored in the last 2 games. The Steelers are giving up the 6th most fantasy points to running backs this year, 26.6 a game, and 14 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 12 on the ground. So, I think Nick Chubb is a smash here. Potentially to get 2. The issue is the other players. So for me, I'm kind of inclined to go Nick Chubb. He's like our safe guy, and I want to just hit this at 2 total touchdowns. Hopefully Nick Chubb can get us there, because even if these other 2 guys, whoever we pick, don't hit, who else stands out to you here?
Mr. Harris, Mr. Najee Harris, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's kind of one of those obvious ones, right? But for me, he's kind of a hard one to gauge. He's only scored twice since week 12. Both came in the same week 14. But then that begs the question, is he due? I mean, the Steelers need a win here, an interdivision game. If they can get the ball moving and they get down into the red zone, Najee's the guy to score, right? I mean, it feels like that.
Well, if they get down in the red zone, it's either him or Freiermuth. So Chase Claypool has died. So rest in peace.
Is there any thoughts on maybe going with 2 Steelers here and going 2 pass catchers? Because I like Freiermuth a lot, actually, as a touchdown scorer.
If you're calling Najee Harris a pass catcher.
I'm kind of looking at my boy Deontay here, Coach.
Yeah, he just doesn't. I don't know. He's only had 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, I do believe, right?
Sorry, go on. What was that, Coach?
I think Deontay's only had like 5 touchdowns this year.
I believe he's had. I'm gonna pull it up here. I think he's had 7 or 8, but I'll confirm here.
I could be wrong. 7. But a lot of his
7.
have come longer touchdowns too.
Yeah, he hasn't been much of a red zone buster.
I think the matchup against Denzel Ward is not the most favorable one either. So they should have Greg Newsome back too. So it kind of depends on who he's against. I'm not like super sold on it. He's not the biggest touchdown scorer in the world. I think the safest bet's probably going with Harris and Freiermuth in this one. As long as Freiermuth's playing, which it sounds like he's going to play.
I like Freiermuth a lot in this one. You know, he scored in 3 of his last 5 games that he's played in, and he seemed to be Pittsburgh's only reliable red zone weapon. So Browns have allowed 8 touchdowns to the tight end position this year. So, you know, I think he's as safe as anyone to get thrown in there. Still dealing with the COVID burps. That's what I'm calling it.
COVID burps?
The COVID burps.
I didn't even know that was a thing, but okay.
Well, it's kind of hard to breathe sometimes. So when I drink beer and it fills up my air tube, you know, then I die, and then I get COVID burps. So
die.
All right, let's go ahead. We'll lock this in. We're going to throw 10 on this one. I know the games, I'm putting 5 on it, but we're throwing 10 on there. We got these 3 for 2 total touchdowns. Again, I'm not sure there's going to be that many touchdowns scored, so I do feel as safe as you can feel with those guys. Let's switch on over to our friends over at DraftKings, and yeah, we'll get our touchdown or our showdown slate pulled up. Nate and Dan are asking to jump in the show. I'm telling them to get in here. I don't know where they are. I mean, now they're they're ghosting us. Like, my goodness.
I mean, they can help with the single game slate, right?
Yeah, why not, right? Let's just do a quick transition. All will be well. Be a nice segue.
Hey, by the way, Nate, I'm not slandering Deontay. I love Deontay, and Dan knows that.
I love Deontay too. It's all love.
If anything, I was slandering Chase Claypool today.
Well, it's hard not to. My goodness.
I said he was dead. So.
Okay, so this Vikings-Packer game, Green Bay is 13.5-point favorites, and at this point, it could just keep going. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, 42.5-point over/under, and I wish we could pick all 3 players from one. If we were doing a touchdown dance, I'd pick all 3 players from one team. But I think this is an opportunity here to kind of get really contrarian with this lineup and, just kind of stack it the way that we see this game script going. So let's talk about it a little. There's a little bit of value, I think, on the board if you're willing to take it in having Sean Mannion at 6,000, just cheap
Mannion
for a starting quarterback. But can you count on him? So, Coach, you have more expertise in this field. You've done a little bit more watching of him. So you tell me, is he a guy that you'd be interested in throwing into a lineup here, get a little contrarian with it, or are you just avoiding him completely?
I'm not really comfortable throwing him in. I mean, if you're playing in some lower contest, a free contest, you want to get super contrarian, throw him up in the captain spot, but I don't trust it. I'd rather just play the complete opposite and play the Packers defense. And Packers defense, they were really good at the beginning of the year. Last 3 or 4 games, they've been about 31st in the league. But they've gotten a couple pick sixes too as well, which is all you really need. You need some stacks. And we already talked about the Vikings offensive line not being the best. So they could get that pressure. They could get the pick 6. That's really what you're looking for. So they're going to be one that I would play personally myself right away, though.
Love it. Getting a little wild with that. Would that be someone you'd be looking to put in the captain spot?
I think it's a viable option in the captain spot. I don't think we have to do it, but I think it's definitely viable. And even going back to Sean Mannion real quick, I'd say in terms of backup quarterbacks, he's in the bottom half of backup quarterbacks in the league. So he's probably not even a top 50 quarterback in the NFL at this point in time. No offense to him or anything, but he's a guy. Like, he's way better at playing quarterback than either of us.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Like, he's in the NFL, but he's, in terms of NFL standards, he's not very good.
His best hope is like to get Justin Jefferson on like an open deep pass. Like, he just breaks free. He just has to hit him in stride. That's really all you can hope for. And
he needs to hit him on a slant pass, because I'm not sure he's going to do it on the deep pass.
Yeah, well, it's easier for Justin to get open deep downfield. He's pretty darn good at that.
Yeah. But even when you talk about those wide receivers, Justin Jefferson's pretty pricey on this slate. KJ Osborne, I believe, is up to $7,800 as well. Like, if he wasn't expensive, I'd be a little bit more interested in him. He's probably going to get some of those shorter routes as well. I don't know what you really think about the receiving options on the Minnesota side, though.
I'm just not interested, to be honest. I'm
interested in the cheaper guys, potentially, with D.D. Westbrook. I believe he's $2,000 off the top of my head. And then Amir Smith-Marset, the rookie out of Iowa. Yeah, he scored a touchdown in one game. Really hasn't done anything all year, but he's $200 dart throw if you want to go there.
What are your thoughts on Mercedes Lewis coming off the COVID list? $800.
Yeah. I didn't think he was going to play, but apparently he got activated today. So let me see where was that in my thought process. Tyler Conklin. He's interesting, but I think he's a little bit overpriced at this point in time, but he could be a guy that benefits a little bit with some of those shorter throws as well. Green Bay Packers, not the best against the tight ends so far this year either.
Yeah, most definitely. Sorry, I'm just sending sorry, go on, Coach.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Are you thinking like a 5-1 Packers stack here?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And which Vikings player are you most interested in at this point in time?
I would say Dalvin Cook, but I want to ask you, does this just feel too chalky for you? Are you kind of out on Dalvin? And if you're the Packers, you have to assume you're going to sell out to stop Dalvin Cook, right? Like, you have to make Sean Mannion beat you with the pass, right? You can't let Dalvin Cook run all over you.
Nope. So I think it's Dalvin Cook, or you pay that, or like, for me, it's probably going to be Dalvin Cook, or I'm going to pay like $2,000 for D.D. Westbrook. And I love me some D.D. Westbrook, but Jaguars ruined him. But that's a whole nother story for a different day.
I know you do.
I got lots of stories.
Sorry, I'm just sending Dan and Nate a link to get in here with us to discuss
You're good.
This captain slate. So, yeah, let's just fiddle with it. I do think we want to get Aaron Rodgers in this one.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams.
Yeah, that stack you got to have. Aaron Jones a little too pricey for me, but I was toying with this lineup earlier. I had MVS in here. What was that?
Oh. I mean, I don't want no MVS coming off the COVID list.
What do you feel, Alan Lazard for 600 more?
Yeah, give me Alan Lazard
a little bit more.
Yeah, I talked about the last time, and he went out and had like 2 touchdowns or whatever. So we're gonna keep on talking about. I just don't feel comfortable with MVS coming off the COVID list, even though he missed last week. And he's just that one trick pony. If they don't get the deep shot with him, he's just not that great.
Look who it is!
What's up, guys?
Who's that guy?
Oh,
SODS infiltration coming in.
Oh,
can't hide from us. Come on.
There we go. Nate, can you just move your head a little to the left? Can you just?
Is it that big?
No, you're just stuck behind. There we go. There we go. Oh, look! If you're not watching on YouTube, I highly suggest you get on here because this will be way better.
Right, we got a full house all of a sudden.
Full house here. All right, boys. Coach. So we're just filling out. We're filling out a look at that. Some nice Viridian Coach Craig swag. Love it. There we go.
So fresh, man. So fresh. I love it. Viridian.
I like that cap. I like
Viridian
that cap
Global, man. Get there. ViridianGlobal.com.
Shout out to
where you guys at?
All right. So we've got. You guys can see the screen, yeah?
Yeah,
man.
we're all in, bro.
We're talking Packers DST for captain spot. I mean, the way DSTs have been going lately, that sounds like a solid pick. And then we're talking about Aaron Rodgers and Javonte Adams. I mean, those two guys are good as gold. Lazard is a guy that I am rising on this week, and Dalvin Cook is the one option that we can count on with Minnesota down Kirk Cousins now on the COVID list. I mean, you guys are basically setting up a millionaire build right here. What are we doing with this last little bit of remaining salary we have?
This is the make or break moment, boys.
What's 4,400? Mason Crosby.
Yeah, we could go Mason Crosby, Greg Joseph. Coach, I know you love some Greg Joseph.
I'd rather not.
What?
Let me drink the bleach.
I'm actually over here trying to pull up my DraftKings.
Nate's like, I'm trying to do some actual work here.
I'm trying to actually work.
Messing around.
Let me see. I got a question for you.
Oh, love it. All
What
right,
happened?
well,
Can you do something real quick, Julian?
yeah.
What happens if you put Aaron Rodgers in the captain spot and move the Packers defense down?
Well, then we have just enough money for your favorite D.D. Westbrook.
No, at least $2,000.
I think we will.
Pretty sure we don't.
Packers, $4,800. Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's money right there. If you got A-Rod at the captain spot, that's giving you one more stack potential there with the cheap dart throw, which I love doing when I'm paying up there at the captain position.
That's a pretty sexy lineup, actually.
Yeah, I could fox with that.
Or you know what you could do? You could take Lazard out, put AJ Dillon in, get rid of Mercedes Lewis, and play D.D. Westbrook.
I'm gonna
what
let
are we
Dan
talking
and
about
Nate
here?
shut
Is
that
this single entry? Is this mass?
Yeah, it's a large GPP single entry. Yeah.
For the record,
I mean,
Coach hates Mercedes Lewis.
Not on. You're the one that recommends him like 5 times this year.
No, you hate him. We've had like 1,000 talks where you're like, nope.
So what was our other option? Take out the Packers
I don't like your
DST.
side of Guara.
No, the other option was take out Alan Lazard and Mercedes Lewis. Right, Coach? That's what you said?
So if you take out Alan Lazard and Mercedes Lewis, you could put in AJ Dillon and D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, no,
That's
I think I like the original one better.
It's a tough grade.
And if you're at home, you can fiddle around with these. You can make a couple of these lineups yourself.
I just feel like AJ Dillon having a good game makes Aaron Rodgers an optimal captain less likely.
Yeah, that's fair. You're really writing a game script here. And I think Alan Lazard has the higher ceiling too.
Maybe.
Just as a single player by himself.
It's not my show. I'm staying out of it.
Well, is MVS healthy?
He's active,
playing
but
this week.
he's still coming out COVID.
Okay. But yeah, I like that line, guys.
Whoa.
All right. I like it too. And it's my money. So, I'm going to go ahead and submit that. All right, guys. That pretty much wraps up. I just got the one game on DraftKings so far this week. Got a bunch of lineups made. I just got to go and enter them. But yeah, thank you, boys, so much for jumping on at the last minute here. We've been dying to get together. I know it's been crazy busy with the holidays and everything. So thank you guys for joining us.
We were very intrusive. We're glad you took the second to add us because we were definitely like, come on.
Well,
yeah, we were.
I had to send the link. So
we've been sitting around for the last 40 minutes. Like,
yeah, just kind of waiting on you guys to finish up. So it just felt right that maybe we get in here and get in on some TNFF, action here before we kick off the SODFS episode.
Yeah, well, now we're gonna switch spots. I'm gonna jump in. I'll just watch from the sidelines, and then at the last 10 minutes, I'll just make sure I jump in there.
When you're not ready, we're gonna add your link, and then you're gonna be on the screen.
Perfect. That's everything I need.
Just keep your mic and camera rolling the whole time.
Keep your pants on, Jules.
Well, I mean, at least I put pants on for this.
You put pants on?
Yes. Coach is like, what?
What's the occasion?
I actually had to say to Renee before the pod started, I can't believe I have to put pants on for this.
It's such a pain in the ass. We all deal with it.
It's been a rough couple of weeks. I'm now referring to this as the COVID Christmas, and it's been a struggle being isolated in my house. But I finally found the courage to put pants on again.
Your beard's looking extra stellar, Jules.
Well, thank you very much.
So fucking good.
I did grow it myself.
I mean, you did good.
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Coach, thank you so much for going through all the injuries and getting into these touchdown dances and Monday night slate. This has been a lot of fun. Let's just recap real quick where the people can find you, and then we'll get out of these guys' hair.
I don't know where to find me anymore, but at Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, on YouTube at Coach Craig Sports, on Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. On Veridian Global, you can find the Coach Craig Sports gear, like on my head and Dan's head as well. And then we got regular True North gear on Julien over there. I don't think Nate's wearing any Veridian.
Jason Williams.
Yeah, that's not on Veridian Global. If we can get Will, can you start doing retro NBA jerseys?
Well,
please.
Will, I love
you.
you.
Hot.
Let's leave Nate out of it.
Hey, Will, I don't know if you heard Nate, but he loves you.
Yeah. Hey, no, thank you for letting us crash. We weren't trying to disrupt your show. We just wanted to send you guys some love because we were big fans of the show. So
we'll let you do your closeout.
Thank you for letting us stop in and just say hi. We do love you guys very, 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 very much.
Oh, Nate, you're too good to us. Appreciate it. And by all means, whenever you want, you can jump into the show. It is not an intrusion at all.
We love you guys.
But without further ado, I'm Julien Barnett. You can find me on Twitter at @thepointafterFF. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Best of luck in your championship week. This is going to be massive. Fingers crossed. I'm rooting for you guys. Go win yourself some fantasy championships, and hopefully you can win some DFS money along the way. With that, the point after is out.